feel like you've got more pressures
Definitely.
to live up to those expectations.
But if we've got a vision in our head, I know we won't stop.
You're going to get it.
I just think that's so important to a good culture as well. In this episode, we take a dive a little bit deeper into the team behind the brand. I think a very big misconception sometimes is people see the brand and hear us talking about the brand and associate just myself and Jack to it. However, in this episode, we go into depth about the team that we've got, the structure behind AJ, and also the culture that we're trying to create. Without further ado, whether you're listening on your device or watching on YouTube, please remember to leave us a little bit of feedback in the comment section below. We hope you enjoy. And we're in.
Yep, we're in.
It's a third episode already.
I know. How mad is that?
This is flying by, but you know what? I'm genuinely loving every single episode we film.
Me too.
Indeed.
Me too. It's been fun so far, hasn't it?
It has.
Got an interesting topic of conversation today as well.
Yeah.
Something that I think, again, people would be interested in, given that you've been expanding, and we'll kind of touch on working in a team setting and how you've grown into a sort of a team of, what is it now?
Soon to be 13.
Currently sat at 10, but soon to be
Right.
13, and we'll discuss that.
That's mad. And
Yeah.
that's in the space of how long?
This is one question that throws us, though, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
officially, really, since last July.
Wow.
However, you could go as early as 2 years ago, really, but consider 13 months of those in and out of lockdown. So,
I mean, if you've listened to our last podcast, you'd understand what we're going on about.
Yeah,
When
the kind of timeline of
Yeah,
how the company's
yeah.
worked.
yeah.
But yeah, the growth has been mad, really. And it's
It
been
has.
arguably one of the hardest times to sort of, or riskiest times to start
I'd
growing.
certainly agree with the riskiest.
Riskiest.
Definitely.
Yeah, so explain then, if it's been one of the riskiest times, what's made you guys think, let's get a team of almost 13?
I think momentum, really, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think it's sort of natural?
It's
Yeah.
sort of been
Yeah.
a natural evolution, hasn't it, really?
Yeah.
And it has, like, if the demand's been there,
Yeah.
rather than sort of sitting with a waiting list or cancellation list, we've sort of just kept up with demand, and that's how I think it's naturally evolved.
Yeah. So, what kind of things have you guys been looking for then? Like, how have you gone about the whole hiring process? Because if people have listened to the last podcast, they'll have known that the start of AJ, let's call it from when you were 12 years old, has just been you two. So it must have been hard getting into that mindset of, okay, I have to realize now that if the company wants to grow, I can't do everything, or you two just can't do everything alone. So has it been like a mindset shift for you?
I think over time it definitely has, hasn't it? I think rewinding back to 2018, the summer when we started, I think initially it was sort of just employing who were new and friends.
Yeah.
And that's all we was looking for. All we cared about back then was, can we, as we grow, make sure our friends are sorted as well?
Yeah.
And anybody that goes into business with friends and stuff always knows it sounds absolutely brilliant, but in actual fact, it's very hard to make it a reality. So, and it got to a point as well where we sort of ran out of friends as well. Like, we sort of ran out of friends that we wanted to bring on board with us. So, yeah, at that point, you know, there weren't really much thought behind the hiring process. There weren't really much thought behind the team that we was trying to create or the environment that we wanted to create. It was very much just, okay, you've been my mate for a few months. How about you come and put a uniform on for us? And that's how it started. And I don't regret that. I think I'm glad that we started off like that. But you certainly learn a lot of lessons along the way.
Yeah.
Like what kind of stuff did you realize from hiring friends?
I think, being brutally honest, is sometimes the complacency, isn't it, of when you have that friendship.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that everybody in the workplace now, in the environment, we are all friends. Like, we chill at weekend together and stuff, and with Jordan and Hugh, and there's still a hell of a lot going on.
Definitely.
As a friendship. However, that's only blossomed from work.
Yeah.
So it was sort of work that then
became a
blossomed the friendship.
rather than the
It
opposite.
wasn't really a friendship that then encroached into work.
Yeah.
And I think the lessons that you learn from that really are, I don't want to say it's a respect thing. I really, really don't, because I believe that those friends, they had complete respect. But I think naturally, I think subconsciously, when you're someone's friend, you haven't got that image of this is work now, because humans aren't really naturally evolved to have some sort of filter, are they?
No.
And I think there's some form or some level of expectancy when it's with friends.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're sort of doing something new or things are going well, they sort of expect something in return for that.
We always,
whether consciously or subconsciously, I'm
They might
not too
say it out
sure.
loud,
but for us, we always felt that additional pressure in the friendship, because we really genuinely cared and wanted to take care of everybody. We still do. We really want to take care of everyone now. But when it's a friendship already, you feel like you've got more pressures
Definitely.
to live up to those expectations. And with the business being so young, maybe in 5-10 years' time, it'd be much easier to live up to those expectations. But when it was so young and there was so much growing still to do, and there still is so much growing still to do now, it was really difficult to meet those expectations when, so it's been a journey, hasn't it?
And I think if going back to last episode, if you have listened to that, it's sort of like we spoke about the big shift number 2, which was around September time,
right?
And that was when our sort of outlook on hiring and who we hire and sort of the structure within the company sort of changed as well, didn't it? We sort of shifted away from, you know, our friends and maybe hiring friends is a good idea and, you know, we can really make it work, and sort of looked at it as if there's a position there that needs to be filled, open it up to everyone. Who's the best for the role? We get them in regardless of who they are or sort of what relationship they have to me and Adam.
So, okay, let's touch on that then. So, if you're hiring for like a coach role, lead coach role, what kind of things are you guys looking for?
So currently now, what I do want to in this episode as well is actually outline the team, because we keep saying, don't we, how it's much more than just myself and Jack. And I really want to give the listeners and the people that are watching an understanding of, as much as the last episode was about letting them understand me and Jack as individuals, I also believe that it's super important for them to give them the opportunity to understand the whole team and what's going on here at AJ. So, going back to your question, what was it?
So
I've not drank my full coffee yet.
I was just asking, so Jack was talking about who's the best for the role.
Got you.
How do you guys decide? Obviously, there's different types of roles.
I remember now. So for the hiring process, that's mainly Hugh's job now.
Okay. So you brought someone on full time to deal with hiring.
Yeah. So,
and again, that was part of the big shift.
Yeah, and it sounds like a big thing because, I mean, you have to. We'll touch on this a bit after you've answered this, but it's kind of like. Now it's less of what you guys are looking for, and you have to instill those values into Hugh. Yeah. And he has to you have to trust him to make the right choices.
So I think everybody who owns their own business or as it grows, they always start to realise that you can't be good at absolutely everything. Yeah. And the whole aim to grow your business is to employ people that are better at specific things than you are. And I certainly think the hiring side of things, Hugh is miles better than me and Jack, because me and Jack get to, and this is no discredit to Hugh, but he's a little bit of a black soul. He doesn't really, I'm yet to see much emotion from him, but I guess when it comes to business, it's really good. Whereas me and Jack are quite the opposite, but me more so than you. So for us, when hiring, we sort of take a lot of emotion into those decisions and stuff, and that's probably why we ended up with friends as staff to start off with, because we took all that emotion into the hiring process. And really that's one of the most riskiest things I think you could ever do, because then you're basing your decisions off emotion and not essentially what is going to be good for the business.
Is right.
So bringing Hugh on board was a blessing, because he not only helps us out so much on the operation side of things and making sure everything works well, but he's also been massive on the hiring process, to the point now where me and Jack only really sit in on the interviews. We obviously work very closely with Hugh still, because ultimately nobody knows the company values and how we want things to play out as best as me and Jack. So we're still very much involved in that process, but Hugh is the guy that sort of leads the way on that, and that's been a blessing for us.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely accelerated the team so fast, and it's been brilliant for us. And I know that me and Jack, that is one element that we struggled with. Like I said, because we took so much emotion into those decisions.
One, there were a couple of reasons why we struggled so much with it. One, because we did take so much emotion into the meetings or the interviews. And two, we sort of didn't have the time to or the attention to give. Like, our attention was spread out across so many different things that we didn't give that process. I mean, hiring a coach is probably one of the most important things that you will do as this bit. In our business,
in our industry as well, where you're doing one-on-ones.
That sells a service. They're the people who are running the service. So
those coaches got to represent you guys.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's so important that you give it the time and care that sort of process needs. And at the time, me and Adam couldn't do that. So yeah, having a dedicated person there to sort of head up those processes has been class for us.
And don't get me wrong, Hugh's job really does expand beyond just hiring as well. He's also in charge of making sure that, you know, any problems within staff is taken care of. He's also making sure
that was it as well. Not only was Hugh's job, he took an external role in terms of getting more people in and finding right coaches, but he's been brought on to take on an internal role as well to make sure all the coaches that are working for us at the minute are all looked after and all the questions are being answered too. So, and
ultimately that the training's there as well, because we're massive. Even me and Jack, still to this day, we know that we've got so much learning still to do, and that's one of the biggest things that we stress in our environment as well, is that you can never stop learning. So Hugh's been brilliant in the sense of, you know, staff training days and making sure there's a couple of events every month that staff can attend, and you know.
Yeah, I'm quite interested in how that works, because obviously we've got like an internal kind of staff at the office, and those are the guys that you kind of have frequent contact with every day. But the coaches who you might not see every day, how is it that like you're kind of keeping tabs on them or checking their progress and things like that?
I think the first thing you've got to sort of answer is if you feel like you have to keep tabs on your coaches, they're not the right person, and there's something wrong anyway.
That's a good point.
So it's not necessarily. I understand your point. I understand your question fully, and it's sort of a rewording. It's not that you have to keep tabs on the coaches. It's sort of just knowing that you're there for them still, and making sure they feel like you're approachable and you can you're there to get questioned and you're there to.
It's being
to
one
answer.
team, isn't it? It's making sure that it's not a case of keeping tabs on people. However, it is very much a case of making sure you're still around and involved, so that it's all one.
But the way we do that is, I mean, Hugh's role is definite must.
Yeah.
So we say to the coaches, if it's the first time coming in, or if the coaches were already with us when we brought Hugh on, we explain to all the coaches that this is Hugh's new role. You're going to have less contact time with me and Adam, but more with Hugh, hopefully, if you take him up on that. But that doesn't mean sort of me and Adam are stepping back. Like, if you need to call us, you've got our numbers. Like, we are there. We're still on the pitch 6 days a week. So, you know, it wasn't the way we sort of still send that message out to all the coaches is, yes, there's Hugh, and if you've got a problem, make sure you're using Hugh, because that's why he's there. That's his job. But if you need me and Adam, we're also there 6 days a week. You've got our phone call, our phone number. You've got our office number. Like,
I think the biggest thing for us with that as well is because we for one, and we'll touch on it a little bit more because I know it's one of the points for today, is we understand that we can't do everything. But one thing we don't want to do is start neglecting areas that still require that undivided attention, which unfortunately, and it's only natural if you want to scale something, that it gets to the point where you have to not, and it is for us, it's never been seen as taking a step back because we've never been more involved in the business as we have right now. So it certainly hasn't been taking a step back, but what it has been is sort of redefining roles to make sure that every sector of the business is getting the 100% undivided attention and care that it requires. And that's been huge for us, hasn't it? Because we know that we can't be in 6 different places at once, putting out 6 different fires at once. So we need, you know, the people that we work very closely with, Jordan, Hugh, yourself, to make sure that those messages between 4 or 5 of us are being passed down to everybody else, and that's been huge for us in creating. Like when we talk a little bit more about our working culture, that's been huge in creating that for us.
That'd be good to touch on. But obviously, you guys just mentioned there, Hugh and Jordan. Those guys are key roles for the internal staff at the office. Just break down for like the listeners what your kind of staff structure is like.
Okay.
And then, because
I like this one. Okay, cool. So obviously on the pitch, that's where we've got the biggest team because, like Jack said, they're the guys that are delivering the service on the front, and everybody. So as we talk about, being in the office and me and Jack, it's important for people to understand that everybody is so involved still on the pitch. And because that's the main focus, that's what genuinely drives the business. That's where all of our passions still lie. So we're still on the pitch, even more so than what we ever was. Yeah. So we've got Zach, our goalkeeper coach.
Yeah, he was mentioned last episode.
He was mentioned last episode.
One of the first guys you took on.
Zach will just always be one of my favourites. Yeah. He's just
cheeky
Zach.
Boy, isn't he?
He's a cheeky boy. Anybody who's been in for sessions or knows what
it's
Zach's
just
like.
His personality is very good.
And the thing with Zach as well is he very much reminds me and Jack of how we was like growing up and at that age.
Yeah.
And more than anything, we've always wanted to look after Zach because we know that he's got so much going for him, and he's such a great. The potential's there, and he's such a great character as well.
We've always, and we have this chat with Zach. It's like when we was his age, it was our dad who gave us the platform to sort of express ourselves, and we say to Zach, if we can be that platform for you to express yourself, then that's what we want.
Yeah, that's so class how you guys are able to kind of like pick out or notice potential in the people you employ, because we're
really good judges of character, aren't we?
I'd like
really
to think so.
Is that something? I know it's a bit off topic, but do you think that's something like innate? Do you think it's something like you've just learned over time?
No, we've been taught that.
Been taught from is that from your dad as well?
Yeah.
Right, that's interesting.
Yeah, we've been taught. Because I used to be in.
We've either been taught it by our dad or taught it through the lessons that we've learned.
Because I kind of
I think a mixture of both.
Maybe it'd be a mixture of both.
Yeah.
But I sort of refuse to believe that. For so many people, it's a skill I was born with. Because like most of the time, you just kind of you just learn to trust people, aren't you?
Yeah.
And people might not have the best judge character, but when you're hiring, that is like one of the most important skills to have. Noticing potential in the people you're going to employ.
No, I do. I think it's a massive point, and I agree on Jack. I think it's a mixture of both taught from dad
and life
and
lessons.
also life and business lessons that we've experienced. Because many people get thrown off and think, "Oh my God, you've only been going for 2 years." Well, yeah, we have, but you condense everything that we've discovered and learned and gone through in those 2 years. Those 2 years,
feels like 20.
It is though. It is. We've gone through in 2 years what most people will probably go through in 20, and with that, you sort of accelerate the lessons learned.
Yeah. Do you think that pacing of like that speed of progress has been down to you guys, as in pushing for it to go that fast, or do you think in hindsight?
I wouldn't really want to sit here and say it's because of us two, but I know we're relentless.
Yeah,
like we won't stop. If we've got a vision in our head, I know we won't stop.
You're gonna get it. Yeah, you're gonna get that goal.
So maybe it's that. I'm not sure, but
yeah.
So we've got Zach, goalkeeper coach. Then we've got Dion. Dion is one of our most recent coaches brought on. Again, see the same qualities and skills that we see in Zach. And it's Dion's based more at our Rochdale and Bolton facility. Straight away, fitted in nicely. Working with Dion quite closely because again we can see that potential.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. Then we've got. Just thinking who to introduce next. I want to do Josh and Jake together. So. Who else have we got?
Let's go
Kieran. Kieran's one of the most newest on as well. But
these are guys I haven't met before, really.
No.
New,
But it was very much sort of in the 1 or 2 months that we was able to actually open through between the second.
Yeah. Whenever it was.
Such a short period of
Whenever
time.
it was last year, we had a couple months that we was allowed to open for. So it was in those that we brought these guys on. So there was Kieran. Kieran's an absolutely amazing coach, and
he comes from a good coaching background, and he's sort of been involved with coaching for quite a while. So
and you can tell that as well. You can tell just his presence. You can tell the way he delivers.
Is he a young guy as well?
He's quite young.
Is he mid-20s?
Mid-24.
That's interesting.
24, I think.
A lot of your coaches, like you keep talking about potential in them and things like that. They are very young coaches.
Yeah.
Is that something like you intentionally did in the hiring process? Or?
I think it's all whenever we talk about hiring, we've always got to think about the environment we're creating, and it's not purposefully been done that we hire young, because
in the past we haven't. We've hired
older coaches.
Yeah. It just turns out that they've not sort of fitted in with the culture and with the brand.
Because you guys are a young company.
Yeah,
at the heart of it.
I don't think it's been done intentionally, and I would never ever, if somebody came in who was mid-30s, I would never say no because of age. It's just if that person's right, they're right. If they're not,
and that's the point I was making. Like we've interviewed guys that are late 20s, mid 30s, and it doesn't bother us at all. But everyone's got to go through the same process of are they going to fit into the environment we're trying to create? So. That's probably the only reason why it's kind of young, but it's still, late 20s.
Yeah. I reckon average age amongst us all is around 24, 25.
Mid-20s.
Easily, yeah.
That's class.
So where are we up to there?
Kieran.
Zach, Kieran, Dion. Then we've got Josh and Jake. So Josh and Jake, Jake's very much, and Josh now, is very much involved in our Stockport centre. So that's our newest centre that we've opened.
We've only had a couple of weeks there. I'm dying to get back there.
And that'll be open from next week?
From next Monday.
Next Monday.
Monday the 29th, 29th of March, depending on when this comes out and when you're listening. But we're back at it Monday the 29th of March over there. So, that to get our foot in the door in such an area like that and at such a venue like that. So for anybody that knows Stockport Sports Village, it's unreal, it's huge, and it's just a real hotbed for football there. And you can tell that how quickly we filled up a couple nights there. So already we're looking at either getting a bigger pitch or extending our booking hours there. So that's exciting there.
But again, that's credit to Josh and Jake. They've sort of gone into the Stockport area, and they had a big presence in Stockport anyway with the work that they've previously done. But for us, they've came in and they've sort of fully booked the site, haven't they, for us? So and with the hours that we're there already,
and similar to the way that we sort of handled Hugh, because we knew that with Rochdale, with Bolton, with Cheadle, with those operating at the same time as Stockport, there's only two of us. So then what happens? Because you can't have me and Jack whizzing across Greater Manchester every hour of the night. Doesn't work unless we get a helicopter.
Good call, that, actually.
Great shout.
Watch Jack order it tomorrow. Why is it 75 grand out my account?
Could Amazon Prime do helicopters?
Those guys absolutely fantastic and really storming it over there, and sort of.
But Jake's the site manager. It's worth introducing Jake's the site manager over at Stockport.
Basically, because we understood that taking on another venue isn't always something that we can devote, because with bringing on a new centre comes new equipment, comes negotiating prices, comes everything that comes with
promoting in the area.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge task.
Yeah.
And when we're managing 3 other sites at the same time, it's kind of difficult to do that and not have little areas that are being neglected. And that's a massive thing for me and Jack, is to making sure that things don't neglect. As we grow, things don't get neglected.
Because if you're growing, but there's parts that are being neglected,
you're
not
really
growing. It's like tug of war with yourself.
That's
so
a good analogy,
you've got to grow without neglecting things, and usually you've got to take one step back to take 5 forward. So in terms, like if so it was an extra expense of bringing Hugh on, but we knew that would sort of stop anything being neglected. So then that allowed us to go 5 steps forward, and that's sort of the way you've got to look at it.
Yeah. One of the biggest and best piece of advice we got was after the first lockdown, and he's a guy called Dylan, owner of Dream Big Sports, Oldham based, so quite local to here as well. And he's been one of the biggest guys that we sort of looked up to and gone to and chatted, because it's similar situations, similar fields as well of industry. So it's always been really nice to chat with Dylan as well. And it was after the first lockdown, and we was catching up. We were checking in on him, see how his business is going. He was doing the same for us, and we were explaining some of the problems that we was facing and difficulties that we was having, and just had a really nice, open and honest chat. And one of the biggest things that he said to us was, what it sounds like is you're working so much in the business that you're not spending time on the business.
Right.
And it took me a couple of days because I'm thinking, what the is he going
What's-
on
what's he
about
actually talking
in the business, on the business? Like
Is that not the same thing?
I'm just Adam. Like I'm just trying here, and
Yeah.
you know. So at the time it didn't make sense, but I was stewing on it for a couple of days, and I thought he's absolutely right. Like me and Jack, and I think I used this analogy in the first episode, but it was so much like we're putting out fires every single day. So we was just chasing everything, weren't we? We was chasing problems, and we weren't never planning. We were never forward thinking. We was always.
It wasn't time, was it?
It just nothing was sort of. How do you explain it? It was just a difficult
just
time, weren't
putting
it?
out fires.
Yeah,
was a good analogy.
So after that, you know, we sort of, like Jack said, took one step back, focused so much, and having the time off really did allow us to do this. But took one step back, focused so much sort of on the foundations and things like Jake managing Stockport, things like Hugh, things like Jordan, gave us the time to do all of that. And that in return has been sort of us working on the business, working on the structure of it, the team that we're creating, and that's what's going to accelerate us even, and already has started to do, accelerate us forward. So yeah, Jake and Josh absolutely killing it over at the Stockport Centre. Then we've got me, Jack, Hugh,
Saul also.
Jordan, there's Saul. So Saul, yeah, worth mentioning. Saul's just an absolute character, and I think anybody that has been following us on Instagram or even knows Saul personally knows that he's a unique character.
He's so football driven.
He's
he really
absolutely crazy for it. And
he's class.
I mean, he works, but he'll do 2 or 3 sessions a week with us still.
Yeah.
So he's just
He's on the ball, isn't he?
But it's honestly his energy and enthusiasm.
Puts me to shame.
Well, yeah, I think
I admire him. I admire him for it.
I do, because he honestly he turns up, and as much as everybody here, like we had a staff meeting a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Straight away he's on with his I can't even Valencia football top on, and he's got sunglasses on in his front room, and I looked at it and everyone's like, oh, shut up Saul, like, but he's just such a ball of energy to have around, and he really, really does bring so much joy and just positivity to the team. And I think it's so important you have someone like Saul. As much as some days you're really not in the mood for him, and there's a couple times that we've turned around and, you know, we've gone heads with him and like said, you know, stop, pack it in basically. But, you know, I would genuinely wouldn't change that for the world. No. And I'm so happy that he first came in as a player, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he was doing his session, and I was like, this guy, like,
is that off his personality? You thought?
Off his personality,
this guy could be good for it.
And we just thought, wow, like, this is so unique that we need to have a chat with him about this. And at the time, he weren't working and stuff, so we took him out for some breakfast, and he was up for the idea, and we was like, mint, like, because then it's just grown from there. Then, and Saul really is one of those characters which is just amazing to have around, and I think even he doesn't realise that he's doing it because it's just so natural for him. But I think, you know, he's responsible for quite a lot of that whole team culture and having a laugh and, you know, just really enjoying it. So absolutely brilliant lad. Love him to bits. Then, I've not missed anyone, have I there?
Hugh Jordan,
me and you. Hugh and Jordan.
They'll be on for an episode at some point.
Yeah. We're going to hopefully get through everybody and have a chat with everybody. But Hugh and Jordan, they have just recently come on full-time with us as well. So they've been given a huge move. So they've been given full-time positions as well. This episode is sponsored by the Online Growth Agency. These guys really are a one-stop shop for everything media-orientated. Whether it be a web design, a complete rebrand, or just your social media. They're the guys that are behind our website and our social media. I really do think you should check them out. www.theonlinegrowthagency.com. Yeah, so on Hugh and Jordan, they've just been given a full-time position. Those guys are still, even more so now, involved on the pitch every single night of the week. But the sort of their day-to-day role, Jord is very much like head of PR, so he's working quite a lot on the public side of things and developing relationships with people and brands and companies in the community and stuff.
Also with the parents who we have
the
in
parents
already.
that we have in already, making sure, just genuinely making sure everyone's happy.
And it's a really important role, that as well, isn't it?
Huge role, I think. And
Again, it was an area that we thought we were neglecting, so we brought
Yeah.
Jordan in to sort of stop that from happening.
Yeah.
Hugh is very much on the operation side of things, so like the hiring processes where he has much like sort of control over, and that's sort of his expertise when it comes to stuff like that, making sure our staff are managed day to day, making sure like the booking system's up to date and the rotas are up to date, and just everything to do
Everyone's
with,
getting like a right session plan.
So they're two huge roles, which really help us out and has genuinely accelerated us so much in the last couple of months. Then there's me and Jack, where I genuinely don't think we could explain our roles. I don't think we have. I think
Don't think we have enough time.
well, I think we're sort of refining them a little bit now. We have those guys and a team that are behind us that can really help us out on stuff.
But for those listeners, day to day, I suppose let's talk about what it's been like the last however many months when you weren't open, but what it's going to look like as well. What kind of are your roles?
Jack's,
what were they like and what they're going to look
Jack's
like now?
very much like on the marketing side. So, we get a lot of questions about social media and stuff, and Jack's responsible for that, and he does all the editing and filming,
like promotional material we
Yeah.
need in terms of like leaflets and stuff.
So
It's all your design. All
Jack,
your work,
Jack's very much that role, and that anybody that's in design or in that type of industry knows that it's a very, very time consuming job. So that's like a hell of a lot of Jack's time really day to day, albeit there's a million and one other tasks that go on around that, but that's his sort of main focus.
Because now we do have a team, and it's not always been like this, but this is why we're learning as well. It's within the past month or so that, we've sort of had to learn these lessons is we no longer have to sort of run around doing everything. So we can sort of refine our role as well. So as much as we might be doing loads of stuff throughout the day, we always just try and have at least one sort of non-negotiable task that is ours. All the marketing's mine. So like at the start of the day, I'll sort of think like anything marketing wise, what needs to happen, I'll do that. And then if anything else crops up amongst the day, I'll sort of have to go and do that. But that marketing is sort of always that constant.
And again, another massive part of the business.
Huge.
Yeah, I think the reason why I wanted to do it is sort of like we've got all these thoughts and all these ideas and everything's happening, and we just want to sort of get it out. Hence why we're doing this podcast, because we can just sit and talk, and there's no person to sort of relay those messages and get that sort of stuff out than myself.
Exactly.
Because it's mine, it's ours. So we can do that.
Yeah.
And for me, I think my non-negotiable, my constant is emails, text messages, phone calls.
Operations heavy, isn't it?
Yeah,
Really?
very much so for me. That's why me and Hugh sort of link very closely.
Yeah.
Because
We've got a nice dynamic in the office. It's sort of Adam and Hugh will work very closely together throughout the day.
Yeah.
Me and Jordan will, if Jordan's setting up, needs a presentation or proposal doing.
I think going forward as well, me and you'll have.
We'll bring what your role is really, because that's new, isn't it? That's happened in the past couple of weeks. So do you want to touch on it?
Yeah, obviously
we'll just
finishing my role. So obviously very much operations based, because one thing that I don't ever really want to let go is the whole emails, text messages, phone calls.
You're the perfect person for that.
But I need that as much as that's still so important for the business, because nobody knows the business inside out like I do. No one's able to take care and speak to parents the way I can. But that's super important thing for me, as much as it's a great thing still for the business, just on a personal level. Like I need that. I get satisfaction selfishly out of speaking to parents, making sure they're happy. Like that is a
you sort of naturally fell into that role then.
I naturally fell into the role, and it's one that I sort of had from the very, very start.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic. Like whether you was inquiring in September last year, you'd speak to Adam. you went quiet today.
And
You're
still
going to
speaking
speak
to
to Adam.
Adam. Yeah.
So it's fantastic to have Adam there doing that role.
Yeah. You guys have really hit the nail on the head with like distinct roles, and everyone's naturally fell in place. You can tell everything's seamless.
Yeah.
Anyone who comes in the office and probably anyone sees you on the pitch, you can tell everyone knows what they're doing, and it just works.
A perfect analogy that Jack used a few days ago in a different situation, but can be relatable to this, is imagine the whole business and the whole infrastructure as like a network of plumbing. And many businesses have little holes in those pipes. So you turn the tap on, which is, say, the front end of the service. And you start having clients and parents, and you turn that tap on and everything starts working again. And if you've not got your network of plumbing piped up and monitored correctly, then there's going to be holes in those pipes, and water's going to start leaking everywhere, and there's going to be errors and mistakes, and it's not going to work, or it's not going to have longevity where it can last for years and years to come. Whereas that's one thing we've focused so much on, is making sure that our network of plumbing is
watertight,
seamless, watertight. I mean, I'm not a plumber, but we've made sure the joints are all welded.
I got it wrong.
So that's been huge for us, so that when we do return next week and turn the tap on again, everything is seamless, and that's exactly where we want it to go.
100%. Your role.
Your role. Let's introduce you.
Well, it's a new thing, isn't it?
It's a new one. You're the most new to the team.
Yeah.
So I think your role.
It's content creator.
It's content creation.
It's sort of helping me out massively, isn't it?
One thing we've absolutely toyed with is obviously the fact that we want a full-time videographer. And basically marketing officer that's going to really work closely with Jack and help him, because we're not at a point where Jack can step down from all these other duties and focus just on marketing. Whereas, again, that's an area that is going to really accelerate us, so an area we want to put a lot of attention into.
Yeah.
Which is why we want to bring you on board, and which is why we are going to bring you on board in a bit more of a part-time role immediately, in potential for a full-time role, because it is part of the whole business that we really want to put a lot of attention into. This whole podcast wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. The whole production of it wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. So I
love doing that sort of stuff.
You just create. And you're very intelligent when it comes to stuff like this. Like many people have the ideas, but they don't have the execution. So the production's poor or the quality's 100%. Poor. And fair play to them, they've got the ideas, but they can't execute
everyone knows if you're filming or something, you need good visuals, you need good sound. But
it's one thing saying it and knowing it, but another doing it. And I suppose I'll be working most closely with Jack for content creation, working alongside you, but I'm excited for it because
it'll be good.
Yeah,
your role's really going to accelerate when we get back on the pitch.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I just can't wait.
And hopefully the guys as well that are following us on social media and on YouTube will see that shift of professionalism.
That's something we've talked about a lot, isn't it? Like, always quality over quantity, and like being intentional with your content that you're putting out, because it is just such an important thing. And
that's something I've learned. Again, I've not come from a marketing background. I've never done any sort of marketing or social media courses or anything. So, I mean, if you go through our social media, you'll see
a progression.
You'll see progression, but you'll see loads of different styles, loads of different sort of posting methods, loads of different capture methods. Because for the past a year and a half, however long the account's been up and running, I've just been testing. I've been trying to test what's work, and you're right, just figuring it out, because I've not come from a marketing background. I don't setting up the Instagram. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to post, when to post.
And this is what
people will be surprised when they hear that,
But I think that's one of the biggest things is people. And don't get me wrong, you'll hear people like Gary V and that'll say, just post.
Content is king. Post every day. Post every second. Film while you're on the shit.
Literally film.
I hate it, and I did it. I went through it because I got stuck in it and thought it was right. And I don't know whether it's just different audiences. Like,
I'm not sure. I always prefer your kind of style now, quality over quantity.
Yeah. But the part I agree with Gary is obviously you can't just not post for 2 months and then expect everything
it's got
to
be consistent.
It's got to be consistent.
But I don't believe in filming every second of your life.
No, I don't. But one thing that I think has been a credit to you, Jack, as well, is that over the last year and a half, the frustration that I've had on like the social media front, because I'm saying to Jack, that looks different again. That looks different again. Why are you posting at R6 in the morning just to see if the American audience are going to respond to, like, you know, just things like that. And he's like, just trust me. And it's been a year and a half, really, where we're only now sat at a point where we know exactly how we want videos to look, how we want pictures to look, what we know is going to work, you know, and that just comes from the whole year and a half of experimenting, and not many people do that. No. And then they question, like, oh, why am I not getting the engagement on social media?
Because you're just not putting enough stuff out, and you've not tried enough things.
It's just, you've not tried things and refined actually what works, what your audience want to see.
And a big shift for me, like at the beginning, I look at sort of engagement in two ways. You've got depth and width. Width is like how many likes you've got, and you know, like how many people can you get seeing your content.
The reach,
But really, and it's been a big shift in my mind, is I'm not bothered how many people see it. I want to know how many people it's affected.
The impact it's had.
And exactly. And so now, like when I was posting like 2 or 3 times a day, or, you know, in the past there was different posting methods that would sort of get more reach and the width would be there, but now I sort of just want to refine that and just work on the depth a bit. Like if that means we get less views or less likes but more comments, or people are messaging us more, like that's what I want now. And that's sort of been a big shift. But with Bashed Heads recently as well, because Adam's like, he wants us to keep up in lockdown of posting and stuff. He said, I can't just repurpose, like we've moved now.
We've repurposed everything already.
I'm not about to recycle old content because we're moving forward with this new strategy now to see if this works. And you know, we bash heads, and it's sort of
it's at a point where I just, you know, because there is, Jack does understand the marketing side a hell of a lot, so it's sort of, I just got to trust his role.
And we have open chats. Like if I get it wrong, I'll hold my hands up and say sorry, but I'm sure there'll be times where Adam gets it wrong and he'll have to do the same. But it's just a process of learning, I guess, isn't it? So
that's it. But no, I'm really looking for, like, I'm excited for people to see how much the content is going to level up when we're back.
Yeah,
me too.
Excited,
yeah,
very excited.
And I just really, like Jack said, you know, it's just we're trying to affect people, and that's what we want. So we want our videos to help people, help coaches. We want this type of content to either influence, entertain, or just engage.
It goes back to the first episode, I guess, doesn't it? When you saying you want to, it was something along the lines of like you want to impact as many players as possible, like every single player that
so there's,
you have,
there's players on the pitch, but then there's people on the social media and content side.
Well, let's touch on kind of like the culture at AJ 1-to-1.
Yeah.
What kind of culture have you built? What are the values that you instill in your coaches and your staff?
And we did a very, very good exercise last week, I think it was. Oh no, this Monday.
It was this Monday.
A
few days ago.
Yeah, we have weekly management meetings, and they're every Monday morning. And I did a very good exercise with them because it's something that I've been thinking about the past few months, really, in terms of like what direction do we want to go in. We found ourselves with this structure, but how are we going to best use it? Sort of like how are we going to really develop that culture within the company?
Yeah.
And the exercise you did were very good. It was just one that was just an open and honest chat, and sort of made the Jake, Hugh, and Jordan sort of put the hat on as if they were bosses. Like, where would they take the company? And it was really good to sort of understand who we're working with.
See where their heads are at.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
And within that we came up with the company values.
Nice.
And we just had a bit of a chat. And I guess the way we sort of want to get that culture going is just in being flexible, being fun, sort of not putting too much pressure on the coaches, and sort of allowing them to express themselves and have a little bit of freedom too. Like, we don't want coaches coming in and just thinking they're coming into a rigid company that's sort of not going to step out of the guidelines that they've set. So that's one thing that we've been trying to work on, and we've been trying to sort of relay that message onto especially Hugh, Jordan and Jake, because I guess they're the guys that are sort of going to influence it on a wider scale. But yeah, it's something that I've been toying with or really thinking about the past few months, because it is that company culture is something that we really want to.
I see that flexibility being a big thing with you guys.
Yeah, and I think that because we sort of we look at like other big companies and stuff and look at their company culture, and you know the likes of Google, Adobe, HubSpot. Those guys are absolutely
They've hit the
killing
nail
it.
on the head with,
And
you know, like building, like you said, massive.
it's just absolutely killing it. And there was something that I read the other day. I got it here that I wanted to share because as soon as I found out we was doing this type of topic, I thought this quote is absolutely perfect for it. So it goes a little bit like this: it's a concentrated effort by everyone, not just the CEO or upper management, to show up, engage, and work with each other to make those values real. Strengthening your culture is an organisation-wide effort.
I like that.
And that really resonated with us, that because, you know, we can sit here and we can say, yeah, we want good company culture and we want our staff to enjoy coming to work, but that sounds great, but how are you actually implementing it? So similar to you, where you said, you know, when you're offloading responsibilities, you're sort of trusting them to go ahead and do the job and replicate your values. That's exactly the same as this. Is it starts with me and Jack, but then it feeds into, you know, the management, and then it feeds into the coaches, and then all of a sudden we've got that one team approach to everything.
I think the biggest way we do that is sort of one, being flexible with the coaches and just understanding them. I feel like that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they just don't understand the people. Then we don't see them as somebody who works for us. They're a person. We're a person. We're people. It's just people to people. And that's all it is. Take titles away, take sort of roles within a company away. We just see it as person to person.
Yeah, I definitely see that with you guys. There's a hierarchy and a structure in place, but there's no I'm better than you or I'm above
Absolutely
you.
not.
You treat everyone as equals.
And
I think that's a massive point.
It's a great point. And one thing we always say is, you know, we take titles away and hierarchies away. That doesn't interest us. What we've always been honest about is we're the decision makers. That always in a company has to be decision makers, the shot callers, and that is me and Jack, because you know it's ours at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So we're the shot callers, but that's it for us. You know, prime example. One of our coaches is Stockport based, and I know at the minute he's putting in miles to come across to Rochdale and come across to Bolton, and anybody who doesn't know, that distance is about 40 minutes there, 40 minutes back, probably about 20 miles, you know, there, 20 miles back. So 40-mile round trip, really. And that's one thing that we're trying to change quickly, because we understand that that's not ideal for a coach to do through rush hour traffic, to, you know, getting home.
That's not going to motivate them to come to work.
Getting home at like 9:30 when he's been out since, you know, 8 a.m. in the morning. Like, so for us, we take those types of situations seriously. And, you know, one of the biggest things that we have in the hiring process is, okay, like in your schedule, if nothing had to change, what could you commit? And of course, there's certain times when we require a little bit more from a coach, or we say, you know, it's not really going to work this unless you can commit a little bit more, because you still got to have that commitment. That you can't just, you know, hire a coach on the basis they can work 2 hours for you in the week, because what's the point in that? But we do have that conversation even as early as the hiring process, of where it's, okay, if nothing had to change in your schedule whatsoever, how much could you commit? Because at that point, then they're doing it as a hobby. They're doing it in their spare time. You know, nothing's changing. They're enjoying it, and they've given you those initial hours based off the fact of, okay, I want to fill my spare time with this because I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to like doing it. And that is just huge for us. Is that just understanding of individuals, that understanding of people's situations, and making sure that, you know, we support and we can care, and, you know,
a big thing that we always try and do is sort of put ourselves back in the shoes of a coach. You know, take the whole business away, sort of go back to when we was just a coach at 12, 13, 14. Like, what would we need to sort of be motivated, turn up because we want to turn up, and just enjoy it whilst we're there? And you sit down and you think about, well, what would you want? You come up with your answers and you make sure you go and do that then. And it's as simple as that. It really is.
And one of the most exciting things for us as well is we've always wanted to create like a natural progression, or a pathway for coaches to progress to. with the size of the business, it just always wasn't feasible up until this point because there wasn't those full-time positions that were offered.
Yeah.
There wasn't the site manager roles that were offered. Whereas now we really do say, and we don't favour one or the other, by the way, and we make this very clear to every coach that works for us and works with us, and even coming on board in the interview process is, you know, we don't favour one or the other. However, you have the decision. It's up to you how far you want to go with this. You know, the likes of Jordan and Hugh, they've known straight away that from when they get to the end of university, they want to have worked hard enough for me and Jack to at least look at them and go, yeah, you're worthy of a full-time position. And they've made sure that happens, and that's one of the biggest things we stress. On the other hand, we've got coaches that work with us 3-4 nights a week, have a full-time job, and come and do us in the evenings. But they're cool with that because, you know, they're doing it, whether it be for a little bit of extra income or whether it be just because they're passionate about coaching. Like, and that's fine with us. We don't favour one or the other. We treat everybody the exact same, but we do put it down to the individual and say you can make what you want to make of this. And the fact that it is such a young, growing business is so important because likes of Jordan and Hugh, for example, and I'll just keep referring to them just because it's a new and it's a dead easy scenario to talk about. Like, you know, they've come on board now and they can push so much and work so hard that they're going to grow with us now. And that's huge for them because they can see that, you know, the work and the efforts that they put in over the next couple of years will be rewarded in 5 years, 10 years. And that's so important for us is we really do stress that it is completely whatever you want to make of it. You know, if you want to come just as a coach and do your 3 or 4 nights, you know, get paid for it, you know, as long as the minimum requirement we ask for is passion, enthusiasm, and you buy into the team approach that we're creating, you know, and you enjoy and you fit into the environment that we're creating. And beyond that, as soon as we've hit those minimums, and I know that we wouldn't get anybody in who wouldn't hit those minimums in the first place, but they're the minimums we set across the board. They're the things we don't let slip, you know, through the winters when it's absolutely awful. No one particularly wants to be out there.
That Christmas camp.
Yeah, the Christmas camp when it snowed, like everything. You just don't, the points when you particularly don't want to be there and it's uncomfortable, we don't let those things slip.
As much as possible.
And they're the things that we say are the company, the values, the non-negotiables. They don't change, and as long as those are being hit, then we're happy. So if you want it to push to a full-time position, brilliant. Let's chat about it and let's see if we can make it work. Likewise, if you want to just do you a few hours a night and
that's
know
also
not worry about it for the rest of the week. It's
because that stress and pressure and responsibility is not for everybody.
No.
If they've already got that in a full-time job, we understand they're not going to want to come. And you know, we've heard stories before where people are in interviews and stuff, and they're saying that, you know, you're gonna have to leave this job and you're gonna have to commit full time to us, and
you guys don't have any of that.
No, absolutely not. We'll have the individuals that want that, and we'll accommodate for that,
and we'll make it clear to everyone who comes in that that's there for you.
And that's what that was leading on from, like, basically the initial point I was making is there is now that pathway and progression route. So, you know, you can come on board with us from, you know, the ground staff and just being a coach to then becoming a site manager and then becoming even an area manager where you might be doing Rochdale and Bolton, and then it might be into the full-time position. So there's now those natural pathways and progressions within the whole infrastructure, and I just think that's so important to a good culture as well. And that is definitely one thing that we've put a lot of attention into, and I really do think we've got right now. And I'm sure along the way there'll be times when we get it wrong still, and there'll be times when we need to sit down and reevaluate and think, wow, what's happened there? But 99% of the time, I'm confident in saying that the team that we're creating is a very good one, is one that people want to be a part of, is one that is ultimately enjoyable and just passionate about what we do, like, and that bleeds into the service. Every parent that because we ask for feedback all the time, we're constantly listening to our parents and players, and one of the biggest things that they come back and say and stress is how much it looks like the coaches are loving it. You know, they're doing it with a smile, they're engaging the kids are laughing. Like you come down on a Monday night and we've got 8 sessions running an hour, and the buzz that place is giving
you can tell when you're filming.
Like
Like when I'm there filming.
Yeah,
it's just,
you're
amazing.
walking on the pitch and it's like you're in a stadium with 80,000 fans, and it's just such a good environment to be in.
Energy's always high.
The energy's always high, and it's huge. And it's not only something that we're responsible for, because it's now got to a point where we've got between 10 and 13 coaches that have bought into that environment and want that same environment. That now
it's a company-wide thing, isn't it?
Every new coach that comes on board, you know, you've got Kieran in Stockport and you've got Jordan in Cheadle, all stressing the same thing to everybody that works for us. And that's why I saved that quote, because it really is an organisational wide thing. You can't just create a good team starting with 2 people at the top.
No.
It doesn't happen like that. It ultimately stems from 2 people at the top, but it certainly isn't just that.
It's not implemented by us.
No, and that's massive for us. Absolutely huge.
I think I've got a nice, you mentioned about Google and Adobe before.
Yeah.
And I got a nice little quote to kind of like wrap everything up. And this was from an employee in Mountain View.
Yeah,
and he was
that's the headquarters of Google, right?
Headquarters of Google. I think it's in Silicon Valley, I think.
Yeah.
And he was saying a company that treats their employees great and in return gets motivated and loyal employees.
Exactly.
So, and that's ultimately what I see you guys building.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We hope so.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Yeah. But no, I think that was an interesting topic. I think all the listeners would have got some good insights from kind of the structure of the business, the team now, getting some insight into the full team. But yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
I enjoyed this episode.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.